Welcome to my Darkmoon Faire pre-release prediction set that I want to do. It's a tradition I do with a lot of my friends. We just kind of go through the cards, rate each one 1 through 5 stars on competitive viability, interest, and combo potential. A little bit about myself. I've been playing the game since launch. I'm a multi-legend player across a couple years and was able to compete in TESPA, which is Blizzard's collegiate esports scene from 2017 to 2018 for my original university. I feel my opinion is a little bit strong in the sense that I have a clear understanding of the game fundamentally. I think my ideology has a little bit of justification from my experience playing the game. Don't take this as an end-all be-all, this is how you're supposed to play the cards, or this is what it's going to be. They're just opinions. I've been wrong on several accounts. You can ask my friends. It doesn't go well. But without further ado, I want to give my opinion of the cards, kind of want to talk about them, just give my impressions. This is going to be going over the first 14 cards from the original batch on the Play Hearthstone Twitch stream for the live reveal of Madness at the Darkmoon Faire. I will timestamp all of the cards respectively below and do my best to kind of talk about what I think is gonna be a strength about the card and what I think might be a little lackluster. One more thing before we actually get into the video, I will be doing another overview of all of the cards per class and just as an overarching, now that we've seen the whole set, let's take a look. But I like my initial impressions at first. I think it's really nice to give some time to digest and bounce some feedback off you guys, so if you do have any other cards and combos that I might have missed, drop it down in the comments. I'm definitely going to be missing a couple of things, but I think if you guys want to help pitch some ideas back and forth, maybe in the review right before the final set, you guys can help shift that opinion and probably make it a little more accurate. Also, if you guys are interested, I do have a Twitch and I do go live every Monday and Wednesday with a couple days on the weekend. It's a little different because I am sick right now, but we're trying to streamline that. Link should be in the description below. Additionally, I have a Discord set if you guys are interested in chit-chatting about cards or just keeping up with me while I'm not posting or online on Twitch. You're welcome to join again. Once again, link in the description below. Let's get started. So the first card we're going to look at today is Day at the Fair, 3-mana paladin spell, summon 3 Silverhand recruits, and the corrupt version is summon 5 Silverhand recruits. To catch you up to speed, Corrupt is a new mechanic for the new set Madness at the Darkmoon Faire, where if the card is in your hand and you play a card that costs more than the mana cost of the card that says Corrupt, it will transform into the corrupted version. So for this instance with Day at the Fair, you have a 3-mana spell. If you play any card that costs 4 or more, Day at the Fair will transform into its corrupted version of 3-mana summon 5 Silverhand recruits. I don't know how to feel about this card. I know I had friends and we were talking about it saying this might be a really big hit. I'm personally a little hesitant to say it's gonna be strong, and it's because Paladin hasn't been getting much dude synergy, dudes being the Silverhand recruits. We haven't seen that kind of dude synergy, so the question is, are we really looking at a 3-mana for 5/5 in stats across tokens? And I think in an aggro deck it might see its place. Like Skyclaw is seeing play, and originally from some aggressive Paladin lists, so we have enough bodies to stick. Maybe with this we might have some type of knife juggler token style aggro Paladin. Otherwise, I personally don't see a lot of merit for this card. I'm gonna give it 2 stars as a card. I think 3 dudes for 3 is not phenomenal. I mean, Muster for Battle existed way back when, and that card was pretty strong. The Light's Justice tempo of just an extra 4 damage that came with the 3 guys was pretty useful. And now you do get an upgraded version at the end, so I guess that is a good way to look at it. Not much more to say. I think it'll be alright. Next on the list is Fortune Teller, a 5-mana 3/3 mech for Priest, with Taunt and Battlecry, gain +1/+1 in stats for each spell in your hand. I gotta be honest, I don't know where this card's going with the cards they've shown us. I don't think Priest wants this card. Like, it's not bad, but it just doesn't do what Priest wants to do, right? There's the aggressive, like, cube Priest thing that was going around, but you're developing a board anyways. You're not stockpiling spells to try and drop a big bomb here. In a control Priest list, you might end up having quite a few spells in your hand, which I guess could make this pretty valuable. You know, a 5 mana 6/6 taunt, I think becomes a threshold of borderline good enough stats. I think 7/7's pretty solid. So 6/6 is maybe there. The card is not great. I don't really see much potential for it. I would really need to see what they're going to try and push for the Priest archetype, if that's going to be a thing, but I'm personally kind of seeing Fortune Teller as pack filler. I'm just going to give it 1 star, guys. I'm not feeling it. I don't see really what Fortune Teller is going to do for Priest. Next up is Fleethoof Pearl Tusk. It is a 5 mana 4/4 beast with Rush. It is a neutral beast, and the corrupt version gains +4/+4 in stats. So your hand will now have a 5 mana 8/8 with Rush as a beast. We're looking at every corrupt card. Can we play the corrupted version 2 turns ahead of its mana curve? I think that's a fair way to evaluate a corrupt card. So in this case, you have it on 5, you play some 6-drop on turn 6, so then turn 7 you now have a 5 mana 8/8 with Rush. I want to say this card is but I say with the caveat of corrupted corrupt as a mechanic being slow, and we haven't really seen a lot yet. For Fleethoof Pearl Tusk, I think my biggest comparison was going to be Faceless Corruptor, because that was a 5 mana 4/4 with Rush, but that was used as a tempo card because the net 8 attack in Rush was pretty powerful. Usually it was in Rogue back in the day, you drop it on a Lackey, so really we're looking at a 5 mana for 7/7 in stats on Rush gained on board, because usually you're changing a 1/1 to a 4/4, so we don't really get the full 8/8. And that card was used for a lot of tempo, and now we're trying to squeeze value out of a Rush minion that we need to stall and wait on. So a 7 mana 8/8 Rush doesn't feel phenomenal. It's still good for standard, but like, I'm not discrediting it. A big body with Rush reminds me of Burly Shovelfist, I think was that card. While it didn't see the most play, it got the job done in standard to remove something, and Fleethoof Pearl Tusk does it. We just need to play it a little bit slower. I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I think the card has a shot. I like the card, but as a whole, I don't quite understand and know yet if the payoff of running these corrupt cards and delaying them based on the turn you could play them is worth it. But I like the flexibility. That's a good thing going for it. Next up, we got a Shaman spell, Dunk Tank, a 4 mana spell that deals 4 damage, and the corrupt version then deals 2 to all enemy minions. I'm a little shocked. I like the card. I think this is another one of those corrupt cards where I can especially feel like the weak version that's not corrupt is weaker, but when you corrupt it, this is a very powerful card. We're looking at basically a swipe in Shaman, but just stronger. Instead of a deal 4, then deal 1 to the rest, we're dealing 4, then dealing 2 to everything. So you can essentially, for 4 mana, target 1 minion to deal 6, and then for, like, the equivalent, you're starfalling the rest of the board. It's pretty good. Like, I think it's good. The corrupt payoff is phenomenal. I think with this kind of card for removal, you run it in a slower deck, and if you run it in a slower deck, presumably you're playing a control style deck, and you don't really need to capitalize on this card for the tempo version of corrupt the way that the other 2 cards we've talked about, you need to be kind of tempo oriented. I think that makes Dunk Tank a little bit better. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I'm very happy with how this card's coming out. I think there's a lot of potential for it, and I think this could pretty easily slide its way into a control Shaman, Quest Shaman, Highlander, you name it. non-aggro shaman, this would make the cut. Next up, we have Guess the Weight, a 2-mana druid spell. Draw a card, guess if your next card costs more or less to draw it. For druid, I mean, if we're guessing the weight, you know, druid's got big stuff. Personally, looking at the card, I found it a little lackluster. I got a little confused thinking why we would want to use Guess the Weight in druid. Druid's drawing cards early and late game is already pretty heavily contested. Breath of Dreams with the Dragon Pool, you're drawing a card and ramping, which I think is better than drawing 2. In the late game, you have Overflow, which is mass draw, mass heal. That just kind of fills out your hand. So I'm struggling to see where Guess the Weight really fits into Druid's set. The question is, does Druid need a 2-mana draw 2? And I think the answer is no. Druid wants to ramp, and if Druid isn't ramping in the early game, they're trying to play an aggressive form of the early game. That's why the token Druid variants existed. Because this card doesn't really ramp, and Druid already has some card draw, I don't see the spot for Guess the Weight. And because of that, I'm giving this card 2 stars. It's not 1 because I can see there being some deck building potential later on. Now we get to some of the fun legendaries. Let's start with Nzoth, God of the Deep. 10 mana 5/7 neutral legendary. Battlecry, resurrect a friendly minion of each type. So very akin to the old Nzoth, we're looking at building a deck with a lot of different tribal minions so that Nzoth, God of the Deep, you play it on 10, it fills the board, and now we're cooking. We're in business. Original Nzoth, I personally want to say is a little bit stronger, and my only reasoning for that really is death rattles in a comp are easier to put together than minions of each different type. So you'd have the beast, the mech. Probably we could squeeze in a pirate if we need to. You can get a dragon for sure. I think that's going to be pretty easy to hit. That kind of just shows this is going to be a little bit of a clunky card to build around. I'm going to put him at a 3-star card right now. I'm happy to see. Hopefully they print a little bit more stuff. Like I said, this is kind of why Fortune Teller and Priest, maybe, you know, take the mech. I guess it's a 3/3 with taunt. I don't know exactly where to really put Nzoth. I think it's going to be a weird build around, but maybe this menagerie style standard deck could come to action. Okay. YoggSaron, Master of Fate. My already most and least favorite card of this expansion. Let's just start. YoggSaron, Master of Fate, 10 mana 7/5 legendary. Battlecry. If you've cast 10 spells this game, we spin the wheel of YoggSaron. The wheel has 6 options, 5 of them with a 19% chance and a 5% chance on the other. For the 19% chances, we have 5 different options. Hand of Fate, fill your hand with random spells, they cost 0 this turn. Curse of Flesh, fill the board with random minions and give yours Rush. Mind Flayer Goggles, take control of 3 random enemy minions. Mystery Box, cast a random spell for every spell you've cast in this game, targets chosen randomly, so the original YoggSaron effect. And Devouring Hunger, destroy all other minions and gain their attack and health. And then for the 5% chance, he can cast Rod of Roasting, which casts the spell Pyroblast randomly until someone dies. So let's start with why I like Yogg, and I guess I could say why I don't like Yogg, and I guess this might be a little bit of a personal take towards my thought philosophy on game design, game balance. Yogg is going to be a card you play from behind. All of these effects are very powerful when you're from behind, and I wouldn't mind seeing any of these when I'm trying to catch up on board. I think that's where YoggSaron's gonna shine. Original YoggSaron had gotten nerfed because of the impact that it had on the game. It just started doing too much when you played it. We nerfed this card because it was a problem in Standard, and we're printing a chance-based version for that to happen again. Now, while I don't think that's bad per se. I think it's just not good in the fact that we're letting a nerf that we had an issue with in the past come back in the game in standard. The second issue the second thing I wanted to bring up, Rod of Roasting. I think the issue with Rod of Roasting is that if you roll that 5%, the game is ending. That was not always true for YoggSaron. I mean, the original Yogg, you're sitting there, praise to RN Jesus, somehow the game ends. Or you just get so far ahead you snowball the game out. Rod of Roasting is literally about to end the game. I'm giving it 5 stars. Let's just get that there. This is a phenomenal comeback card. No matter what option you get, it's gonna be great. Next on the list is Silas Darkmoon, 7 mana 4/4 legendary neutral battle cry. Choose a direction to rotate all minions. So this was very akin to the carousel in the solo adventure. The minions will either shift one position to the left or one position to the right, and if they are on the edge, they will shift to your opponent's side of the board, or your opponent's minion will become your side. I really don't know where this is gonna go competitively. I think there's some unique potential here because it, in an optimal world, this is a 7 mana 4/4 mind control. And we can, just shuffle off like our 1/1 or our 2/2. I'm giving him 3 stars. I think that potential is possible, but I think it's going to be kind of niche. He might be a good control tool just to deny some people minions, but I really don't know exactly where he would fit. I think it just might be if we end up getting to a point where we have one impactful minion on board, we can just steal it with Darkmoon. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything too crazy. Next up, Yashraj the Defiler. 10 mana 10/10 neutral legendary battle cry. Add a copy of each corrupted card you've played this game to your hand, and they cost 0 this turn. I think this is kind of the culmination of what I think of Corrupted. If Corrupted is good, Yashraj is broken. If Corrupted is alright, Yashraj is great. 10 mana 10/10, adding cards that cost 0 to your hand are extremely impactful. With the Corrupted cards we've seen so far, you'd have a 0 mana 5 dudes, which is gonna fill your board. I don't know about that one. 0 mana 8/8 with Rush, very powerful. 0 mana Dunk Tank, which would be the deal 4, then deal 2 to everything. Really good removal and tempo. He'll make that cut in the Warrior and Priest, probably the slower decks that can make it to the end game. Maybe even Druid, since they can ramp a ton, but he's just going to be the bomb you drop on 10. You slam stuff on the board, you start trading, you use your spells to clear it. You become in a dominant spot with Yashraj the Defiler. I'm giving Yashraj the Defiler 5 stars. I'm giving him 4 stars. We're gonna take it back a little bit. I think he's very powerful. He's gonna be very good with a lot of the cards that are coming out with Corrupted. I think we just need to take a step back and make sure that Corrupted cards are going to be good, but anywhere you see Corrupted cards, you'll see a Yashraj at the end of the deck. So next up, we have Cthulhu the Shattered, 10 mana 6/6 legendary for neutral. Start of game, break into pieces, and then battle cry. Once Cthulhu the Shattered is assembled, deal 30 damage randomly split among all enemies. So let's start, just make sure we're all on the same boat for how Cthulhu the Shattered works. When you put this one card into your deck at the start of the game, somehow Cthulhu's gonna explode, and you will now have 4 pieces into your deck. It will shuffle in the body, eye, heart, and maw of Cthulhu. All are 5 mana spells that are pieces of Cthulhu. So once you've played all 4, it will then shuffle the actual Cthulhu the Shattered card into your deck. The 4 pieces are Body of Cthulhu, it's a 5 mana 6/6 with Taunt. Eye of Cthulhu, 5 mana, deal 7 randomly split among all enemies. Heart of Cthulhu, deal 3 to all minions. And then Maw of Cthulhu, destroy a minion. I think that if we look at the pieces collectively, 6/6 with Taunt for 5 is solid. Heart of Cthulhu, being the Excavated Evil, deal 3 to all, good removal. Assassinate, probably one on the lower end in terms of value, but destroy a minion, sometimes you could just use that utility. And then the deal 7, or the slightly smaller Avenging Wrath, alright, I mean, it could be good. I think that Cthulhu pieces are not phenomenal, but in a deck like Warrior and Priest, maybe even Mage, you probably have time to play these. If the meta doesn't go super aggro, I think Cthulhu could see some play. This kind of falls into that trap of you don't know when you're finding all 4 pieces. Sure, there's cards like Stowaway where you can just draw some of those pieces out. That could be potential in Rogue. Additionally, for Priest, I think you can just start doing some discover spells out of your deck. But I think if you're not trying to really cheat Cthulhu out, it's not worth putting in a deck. I'm giving Cthulhu 3 stars. If the meta's aggro, he won't see play. If the meta's slow, he will see play. Next, we have, oh lord, the 10 mana 1/1 Darkmoon Rabbit. It's a beast with rush and poisonous, and also damages the minions next to whoever it attacks. So it's cleave. It's 10 mana for remove 3 things, assuming there's no bubbles. Destroying 3 things for 10 is actually a pretty decent trade. I think what becomes scary is when you combine this with like Nzoth God of the Deep as your beast, and now your beast is a 3 minion removal off of Nzoth's spawn. So if we can cheat the Darkmoon Rabbit out, this can get scary. I'm gonna give the Rabbit 3 stars again. I think the potential with Nzoth is good. The card on its own is a bit slower. Otherwise, we probably won't see much play with it. Next up, we have the 3 cards I all kind of put together, but I'll talk about them one at a time. Solar Eclipse, Druid spell, 2 mana. Your next spell this turn casts twice. Like, there's potential with Solar Eclipse, don't get me wrong. You can double Savage Roar, Kalephis, Innervate, Solar Eclipse, Survival of the Fittest. And now we have 8/8 across our minions in deck, which is terrifying. Solar Eclipse with Overgrowth. 6 mana, gain 4 empty mana crystals is kind of scary. Because if you can, turn 4, like, Lightning Bloom, Solar Eclipse, Overgrowth, well, now we're at 9 mana, 7 because you're overloaded, but then you're up to 10 very early on. And while that combo is there, like, Solar Eclipse with Ramp is definitely a good combo potential. And I think with Solar Eclipse having that flexibility of ramp and spells, I think it's got a good shot. I'm giving Solar Eclipse 4 stars. Card's great. It's got a lot of potential. Question would just be then, does Druid with some spell synergy make the cut in competitive? So we'll have to take a look at that. Next up, Lunar Eclipse. 2 mana, deal 3 damage to a minion. Your next spell this turn costs 2 less. So we're kind of looking at Bog Beam here, but instead of making it cost 0, we're now making you spend the mana up front so you can get the reduction later. I think this is kind of just Bog Beam, but it's their way to prevent you from, spamming spells, because now you still need the mana to have played it in the first place. I'm really comparing this to Wrath. Is this better than Wrath? And I think the thing with Wrath is the flexibility of dealing 1 damage to draw a card is very impactful. Sometimes you have to use Wrath for 3 to kill it, but in the matchup you don't, you can Wrath to draw. And in Lunar Eclipse, we just don't have that flexibility. So then we have to look at the upside is this next spell costing less really worth it? Not really. Because if you're gonna cast the spell, you're gonna cast it anyways, right? We don't need to do some cost reduction because it's all in this turn. You can't set stuff up. I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I mean, deal 3 damage, reduce the cost by 2 mana up front. It does everything that Druid's been doing with Wrath and Bog Beam. It's just a question of, do we have potential for reducing spells? And I feel like Lunar Eclipse is the weaker of the 2 eclipses. Kyri, Chosen of Elune. 4 mana 2/2 Druid Legendary. Battle Cry, add a Solar and Lunar Eclipse to your hand. If we want to run Lunar and Solar Eclipse in the deck, are we running multiple copies? If we're doing some tempo stuff, Kyri's slow. I'm giving Kyri 2 stars. I hope I'm wrong with that, because I think the card is really cool, and I think the eclipses in general are really nice, but I don't quite see Kyri being very impactful, because why not just run the eclipses anyways, right? Kyri, Chosen of Elune would just make it because it's the good enough 4-drop that gives you enough stuff to do, but I'm gonna kind of cut it off there. And there you guys have it. That's my opinion of the 14 cards that they've released for Madness at the Darkmoon Faire. If you guys did enjoy the video, I'd appreciate if you hit the little thumbs up and the like button, and if you enjoy more content like this, you press the subscribe button. I plan to do a lot more of the Darkmoon Faire card reveals. I'll do a full overview at the end, closer to the expansion release date. And I'll probably be doing some theory crafting and deck building, and I'll put that on YouTube and on Twitch as well. I'll be streaming some of those fun deck ideas. If you guys have anything, you can join the Twitch channel while I'm live. I think that'd be awesome to get some deck ideas from viewers. Once again, that'll be in the description below. Thank you guys. Thank you for sticking around. I hope my opinion wasn't too crazy. If I did miss any card combo potential or anything, just leave that in the comments, because I'm very happy to see what people are coming up with when I start missing some things. But yeah, until more cards are revealed, I'll catch you guys on the other side. Peace.